Hey everyone, my name is Braden Taylor. This is going to be my discipline project. I chose to do it by myself, so here we go. I picked Barbara Coloroso. The reason I picked her design was it just made a lot of sense to me um, as the kind of teacher I would want to be. I think we can all agree that some of the best teachers are the ones that didn't like roast you, for example, in front of the class, didn't belittle you, but at the same time, they pushed you to understand what you did was wrong. The basics of her design are pretty simple. It's the teachers act as guides for students problem during problem solving and suggest the best behavior, and they do not solve the problems for the students. Um, Basically, when you break down Barbara Coloroso's design, it's basically a guiding principle theory. So you show them what they've done wrong, you give them the ownership of the problems involved, you suggest strategies for solving these misbehaviors and problems, and ensure students' dignity remains intact. Um, this is key. I get it. Some teachers might disagree with this, and later on I will go into the pros and cons, but right now I just want to continue on with the information I have. Barbara basically breaks down misbehavior into three categories. Those three categories are mistakes, which are, they are what they are. They're simple errors, they're hiccups, it can be easily fixable. The next one is going to be mischief, which is not really exactly serious, but it was intentional misbehavior. Like they they knew what they were doing, they knew it was probably wrong for the classroom setup, and they did it anyways. And the last one is mayhem. Willful, and it's like serious misbehavior and calls for like immediate justice, like punishment. Like there's really no point in following the guidelines at this point because, like the word says, mayhem, which I don't necessarily think mayhem was the best word, but it's what she chose to go through. Um, Continuing on, it's literally just about helping the students, like I mentioned before. You don't want to sit there and just take your time with it. It needs to be handled pretty quickly and efficiently. Um, some of her key elements to this that I really took away from was school needs to be a joint effort between students and teachers. Um, it can't just be, I'm the teacher, this is what we're doing, listen to me. It has to be, there's that relationship between the students and teachers, which is part of her philosophy and theory too. You have to work together in order to achieve your goals. The second key element is that students respond to the three F's of punishment. Those three F's are fear, fighting back, and fleeing. And ironically, those are the three things just in life in general. It's what a person does when confronted with something that they're scared of or of the unknown. They are initially in fear, and then they go to a fight or flight situation. And I think students do that too. I know when I was in school, I did. When I was getting in trouble, there was the fear of more or less what was going to happen when I got home, not so much of whatever the school was going to do. But when it came to the teachers, I either fought back or I just ran out of the classroom and went straight to the principal's office. So I do like how she incorporated those three F's because I think they are very true in this in the teaching and discipline areas when it comes to teachers. And a third one that I really agree with 100% is that teachers can enforce consequences and they need to be reasonable and purposeful and associated with the rules in the classroom in the school. It seems like too often, at least when I was in school, that teachers would just go off the reservation with their punishments. Um, they were sometimes I thought over the top, even for when I was acting up, and it just made me more inclined to act up in those classes. So that's something I really took away from during her stuff is like it it needs to be reasonable. You don't want to turn into that tyrannical dictator of your classroom, and then you lose your classroom completely. She also goes into talking about how there's three types of teachers, and I think this is important to cover too. She classifies them as brick walls, jellyfish, and backbone. The brick wall is basically that teacher that's a hard case and is not budging. Um, and it's more or less the tyrannical teacher that I mentioned before. Jellyfish, it's exactly what it sounds like. You got a teacher who's just flailing all over the place. They're breaking down. They're letting students do whatever they want. They're not following through with what they said, and that's what it is. I mean, they're jellyfish. They don't have a backbone. And the last one, ironically, is backbone. That's a teacher who is respecting the students, but at the same time has laid down the law and said, "This is my classroom. Here's what we're doing." You know, does not falter and sticks to the script of what they say they're going to do. An example of this in practice would be like a student, you know, doesn't do any homework, zero homework the whole semester. Um, the teacher will then talk to the parents about it and the student about it, and hopefully they both realize they could get a better grade. But the student is also performing well on the test and in classroom work. The student is showing that they understand the material that is covered efficiently. They're just refusing to do the homework. A way to combat this is to give the student options. Um, okay, so you could do this, and if you do this, then we won't have to go into any of these punishments. Student then decides that they're not going to. Following the next 9 weeks, the teacher could have the student sit with them during recess time or lunchtime. That could be a pretty good. That would have motivated me because nobody wants to sit with the teacher, depending on the eighth grade. Um, excuse me. So that was one, and I didn't even really think that something like that would be appropriate for this. So that is my model. Um, oh, the pros and cons. I'm sorry. It does have some pros and cons. The pros are it is effective. It is important with helping the students kind of transition into that maturity stage. Um, they can learn to solve problems that they will encounter in life. It doesn't exactly make the conflict of punishment that it can sometimes result in. But most importantly, it builds that respect in the classroom between the student and the teachers. Um, and that is something that I am very passionate about, that there does need to be that relationship between the students and teachers. That's a positive one. Cons, it's long term. Um, it and it might be difficult to do and slow to resolve in classroom disruptions. And also in urban classrooms, the students honestly probably respond better to like direct instruction, direct orders, whatever you want to call it. And it and the theory doesn't exactly address how to handle in classroom discussions or disruptions. I'm sorry, not discussions. And when teacher made consequences are important. So those are some pros and cons. Um, it doesn't really say like, okay, this happens, here's what you do, which you would have to just go to just a fallback discipline plan that you yourself would have to have. So that is my discipline project. Hope you all enjoy. Hope it wasn't too long for you. I do apologize if it is, but thank you very much.